Welcome back to my channel, Miss Personal Finance, where we discuss everything finances. I have different series on my page, including an animated series for teens and young adults, but this will be my first video in our household finances series. I'm going to start off with our monthly budget for January. Specifically, this video will be covering how to budget when your income is variable, when it's not consistent, when you don't make the same amount every month, and it can fluctuate up and down. So we have several different sources of income, and majority of that is variable. My husband is fully self-employed. We have rental income, but that can fluctuate month to month depending on repairs or any additional costs that may be incurred for each of the units. And we also have side hustles, and that can vary depending on the time amount of effort we put in on a monthly basis. And we do have W-2 income as well. So with that being said, we don't really know from month to month how much we will be making total for that month until the end of the month when we tally it all up. So that made it very difficult for us to budget, to know how much we could save on a particular week or month. So to make things easier, I've come up with some steps that have really assisted our family budget and being consistent and less fluctuating from month to month. So the first thing we did was reduce our overall expenses. Not necessarily a bare bones budget, but really going through our monthly budget, finding out the things that were important, that were necessary, and then taking out the extra and the miscellaneous. Now, we all know with budgeting, if you limit or restrict yourself too much, then you're likely to overspend or get off track. So we do leave some funds in our budget for miscellaneous, fun, etc. So after we reduced our expenses, we use those monthly figures to get 1 month ahead. Now, getting 1 month ahead allows us the freedom of so many things. One, we don't have to worry about how the fluctuation will affect our budget for that month. We already have those funds in our savings account, which we simply transfer over on the first of every month, and we know how much we have to budget for that month. And throughout the month, we replenish that 1 month ahead fund for the next month, and anything extra is what we can use toward additional debt payments or savings. Now, getting one month ahead can be a little bit difficult, or it can take a little bit of time because you're essentially saving the same amount that you would need to run your household for a month. So that can be over a couple of months if you go really hard, or that could take maybe a year or so to get it to where you are completely 1 month ahead in your entire household bill. So that's fixed expenses, variable expenses, cash on hand, so on and so forth. So once we got 1 month ahead, we were able to stabilize the fluctuation, and that has been a tremendous change and benefit to our budget. So for January, so this is going to be 2024 January, on the 1st, we simply transfer over from our 1 month ahead account a total of $5,000 even. So that gives us $5,000 at the beginning of the month to work with. And we go down to our fixed expenses. It has a spot for like the due date or when the date bill is due, but I just like to pay everything on the first. I have most of the things on auto pay, and it just starts deducting everything on the first because we already have the funds in the account. We already know what the amount will be. So we just go ahead and pay everything at once, but you can definitely go through and put the due date if you don't feel comfortable paying everything at the beginning of the month or at one time. And because you have the funds in your account, no matter what date it comes out throughout the month, you'll be prepared and the funds will already be there. So I'm going to start with our fixed expenses. Now, here we have savings, and I am a firm believer in paying yourself first. So whether that means putting money into a savings account or investments, um, it's important that you pay yourself first because your future self will thank you for it. Also, when you get in the habit of paying yourself first, then you are actually more selective on the remaining funds that you have, and you're less likely to spend it on, frivolous or unnecessary items because you've already sent some of that money away to savings or investments. So for us, I'm going to start off with our monthly this savings or investment amount is actually investment. So we send we send $200 a month to various investment accounts, including like IRA or 529 accounts. And again, we do want that or keep that as a fixed expense and not a variable expense. It's the same amount every single month. It's consistent, and we know, we're going to pay ourselves first before we go through our budget. Now for mortgage, this is another debated topic, whether mortgage goes under fixed expenses or debt. It technically is a fixed expense because it changes maybe only once a year, once your escrow analysis comes through. But it technically is a debt. It's an amount owed to a lender. The asset is not entirely yours until you've paid it off. So because we're not tackling our mortgage at this time, I am going to leave it under fixed expenses, but do know that I do consider it overall as a debt. So for a mortgage, I like round numbers, so I just round it up and pay $1,520. And then for internet, so we pay the same amount every month, and that's $70. I know every couple years or so, the either discount or introductory rate expires, and we essentially just contact them or maybe shop around to see. But for right now, we have a steady bill of $70 a month for internet. Next, we don't have cable, but we do have Sling TV, and that's pretty much the same thing, and we pay $63 a month for that. Next, we have school for my daughter. So we pay about $900 a month. It's not that it's not that it fluctuates, but there can be additional costs depending on the month for like extra supplies or fees. But we take that out of our savings or sinking funds there. Next, we have medical. Due to our employment, like self-employment, we just have private insurance. And right now we pay $182 a month for medical. For dental, that's at $38. And for subscriptions, it's only about $6 a month between Apple iCloud, and I think there's like a credit monitoring that we pay every month. Next, we have electricity. I'm going to do these two like utilities, electricity, and water. Now, I know they can be variable, meaning they fluctuate every month. You kind of maybe have an idea of what it's going to be, but it can be higher or lower depending on the month, the time of the year, the weather, things like that. But another way that we have um, been able to deal with variable income and irregular paychecks is by turning variable expenses into fixed expenses. Some people call this budget billing or EPP, equal payment plans, where their utility allows them to pay one set amount each month based off of their previous usage. And then at the end of the year, they true it up, whether there's a deficit or an overage in the account. So I just do that on my own. I've been able to keep track of our previous year's usage of both electricity and water, and I found the average and I calculated the average, so I just pay that every month. So although some months I'm overpaying, it makes up for example, the summer months where the AC is blowing all the time and your bill is higher. I have those extra funds that have been accumulating during the winter months where the AC hasn't been running so much, and that evens it out. So I'm paying the same amount every single month, and it allows me to be very consistent with our budget, so that we know what that expense is going to be for that month, and it aligns with our income. Now, for electricity, you can do this. You can round it up a little bit. You can add maybe $5, $10, because things do, with inflation, increase year over year. I have calculated for our household about $200 on average for electricity and about $70 on average for water. So that, again, really helps turning variable expenses into fixed expenses as much as you can. Another thing that we do is prepay. We prepay anytime we can. So if you get a large chunk of money at one time, let's say if you get a tax refund or an annual bonus from work, prepay as many of your monthly expenses that you can, or yearly expenses that you know are going to occur, like annual subscriptions, like Costco or Amazon, but specifically bills that are due that you can pay in advance, like your car insurance. So we pay our car insurance every 6 months. So 6 months at a time, so twice a year. That way we don't have that monthly expense recurring and are able to keep our budget at a reduced amount and able to cover it on the months that our variable income maybe not as high as it typically is. So I'm going to move over to variable expenses. And we do have our sinking funds. I'm going to leave that, fill that in last after I go over our other variable incomes. And based on the amount that we have left in our budget, I throw it into sinking funds, just so that we have a zero-based budget, meaning that every dollar is accounted for and every dollar has a job or assignment and it knows what it's going to be working toward. So for variable, we have the typical, so for food like groceries, so I'm going to put groceries. For our household, we budget about $100 a month. So on a typical month, it'll be $400. This is variable because this can be $500 on a month where we have 5 weeks in the month, or it can be increased, let's say, due to the holidays around Thanksgiving or Christmas. So on average, it's about $400 a month. For gas, budget about $240 for the month. For a household, these are for items like cleaning supplies, paper towels, things like that, things you always need around the house, batteries. So we budget about $120 a month. And then for miscellaneous, this is like personal spending. It's unaccounted for, whatever you want to spend it on, and that is $240 a month. Okay, and next I'm going to move over to our debt. So our household, we started doing the Dave Ramsey method, and we realized our life is not conducive to following the Dave Ramsey steps exactly, because we still invest, we still save funds towards our sinking funds, and it's not really aligned with the Dave Ramsey baby steps. But one thing we did try to focus on is the elimination of our debt. So we're kind of like, let's say, midway through our debt journey. We've paid off all of our consumer debt and are down to the last debt with it, which is student loan debt. Just a side note, I do have a debt confession regarding our business expenses. And oddly enough, we are able to separate the two and not merge them. So we have a household account and finances and separate business accounts and finances. So we don't mix the two. So any of those minimum payments are paid out of our business account and from our business revenue. So it doesn't mix with our household budget. So for our household, we have student loan debt, and we pay at least $500 a month. So when I go through all of these categories, we have, so for the fixed expenses, we have 200 plus 1520 plus 70 plus 63 plus 100 plus 182 plus 38 plus 6 plus 200 plus 70. All right, so we have a budgeted amount of $3,249 for our fixed expenses. For our debt, if you have several, you can use these lines, but right now we only have the 500. So we have 5,000 to begin with. We take out 3,249 for fixed expenses, 500 for debt. I'm trying to calculate how much we have left for to devote to our sinking funds. So I take out groceries, gas, household, and miscellaneous, and that leaves us with $251 for sinking funds. So we add all our variable expenses back in to total up this section, and that gives us $1,251. So just to ensure we have a zero-based budget, all I do is take the three sections, add them all up, and they should equal 5,000. So 3,249 plus 1,251 plus 500 gives us $5,000. All right. So like I said, all of these dates we pay on the 1st of every month. So most of these pretty much are already drafted from our account for the month of January. But you can choose which dates you would like. You can leave them on the original due dates, and that's completely up to you. All right. Well, that's it for this video. We've gone over our monthly budget, and I tried to include some tips that we have used to keep our fluctuating or variable income aligned with a typical monthly budget. So what's going to happen is at the end of the month, I'll come back and put in the actual. So if we receive any additional sources of income throughout the month, we use that to do things like fund our sinking funds, like additional funds here, if we want to put additional towards debt, and then also what we're saving to fill up the next bucket for next month, the 5,000. So all of those funds go directly, essentially into a savings account, and then we start it all over the very next month. If you have any questions, or if you'd like to follow along on our journey, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment below. Thanks for watching, and until next time, bye.